Hall and the Library and Archives proposals in the LTP. A couple of things I want to clarify. Firstly is legally the council has to have a preferred position in the long-term plan. So to clarify that though, that's where the majority of the council have voted for that option, but it's not necessarily a unanimous council decision. So councillors around the table do have different views, but we have legal obligation to state a preferred position on each option. And then obviously we go through submissions and feedback. How are we going to run the evening? It is about the town hall and the library and the archive. It's not about everything else. So we'll stick to that subject matter and we'll also stick to questions on that. But if at the end of the evening you have other questions, please feel free to come up to Tania, this is Tania, and leave those questions with her and your contact details, and we can get the information that you require and respond back to you. We have a number of staff here who I'll introduce in a minute. We want to keep this to the topic, to the point, and also we don't want to hold you up any later than we've scheduled. So hopefully we'll be able to address everything that you want to know and also all the questions that you have. I'd like to introduce firstly His Worship, Gary.
Hi there, folks.
This is Harriet, who's our governance advisor for council. This is Tania, who's the head of policy and processes, and it's got a really long title, but I can never remember it. We hand the tricky questions to Tania. David Paris, who's our head of finance, and Lisa, who's the project manager for the town hall, the library and the archives. So we're going to start with, I'm going to do a brief overview of how we got to this point, very brief, because I'm sure many of you know how we arrived here. And then I'll hand over to Lisa, who's the project manager, and she'll go through the options with you. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the town hall part first. So there's a few slides to get through. So if we could do the slides, we'll stop and then have town hall questions. Yes, you can. That's the first question I can answer. So we always start with the easy questions. So we'll do the town hall first, questions on the town hall, then we'll move to the library and archive, questions on the library and archive, and then if you need some clarification at the end of it on either of those, we'll do that. And then, as I said, if you've got questions on other council issues or areas, if you could direct them to Tania after the meeting. Does anyone have any questions? Great. Okay. So we'll just run through these slides. Hopefully, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with this because I hate death by PowerPoint. So it's really just to say how we came about and how we arrived at where we are. So the first bit is the town hall and municipal buildings were assessed as earthquake prone in 2016. They were closed and then we started the conversations about...
Just better remind people it's being recorded.
Oh, sorry. And yes, it is being recorded. So just to let you know. Okay. So then we had a survey in 2017 which basically said, what do you want? To be honest, most people came back and said we want a venue. And then we had 65% of the 220 respondents who said they wanted a new facility. It's pretty vague. You know, what does that look like? Then in the 2018 long-term plan, council agreed that a facility would include a performing arts space, such as a venue, a flexible venue. And then in 1920, we had another survey which 1,500 people responded to about what they thought might be important in a venue or in such a space. There's next slide. Right. 2021, there was a decision made by the previous council to build a multi-purpose facility. Then in 20, council voted to include the following features. And then in 2021, council voted 6-5 to build a modern civic facility with external funding, and the provision for the budget was 30.8 million. 22, it was rejigged and re-estimated with, you know, we had COVID and price increases and the world went slightly mad. And that came back at 71 million, which the current council at that time said, whoa, get that. And we sought feedback in the 23-24 annual plan. And it was pretty much, it was decided that that cost was not affordable for our community. So then, to summarise, the new council went back to the drawing board and had to unpick that long-term plan decision and reconsult again, which is this time. But also the council's voted to use the existing sites that we have. But what are we going to do with them? Which is really what the long-term plan is saying now. What are we going to do with our current assets? It's kind of paraphrasing it, but that gets you to where we are now. And we formed a project advisory group in this new council in September 23 last year, which included independents. One was Toby Mills, who has a lot of sound and event experience, and he has a company called Noise Production, which does a lot of events in our area. And we added Dave Foreman to the advisory group. I'm sure that you know his background with developing and building and designing, and he's had a hand in many of the developments Wairarapa wide. And also it was made up of elected members and also some project management and building consultants. And also we hired local architects, Silverwood, to work on some options to proceed with. So that's kind of the background of where we're at. Does anyone have any questions on that? No. Okay. So then we put out the, so the project advisory group has been working since September last year to come up with options that are palatable, and probably the main objectives are, if we rebuild, retain the facade, use our existing sites, and make it affordable. The question is, what's affordable, I think. So that's probably where the most debate is. So that's where we've landed. And in the long-term plan, there are 3 options for the town hall. And in the plan, there are 3 options for the library and the archive. So Lisa will go through those now and explain them in a bit more detail so you're clearer on what's incorporated in those options. And as I said, we'll do the town hall first, then take questions, and then we'll do library and archive and take questions. Is there anything anyone wants to ask first before we start? Great. Brent.
Yeah, just wonder if you can emphasise that you're putting up 3 options for this. The public can put up any option they wish, and that sadly is not emphasised enough.
This is one of our councillors, Brent Goodwin. For those of you who don't know Brent, thanks Brent, that's a really good point, because there are 3 options in each area, but there's also feedback at the end of the submission form. So I had a lady today, for example, who wants to do the Waiata House extension but doesn't see the town hall as necessary. And I said, well, then you don't tick any of those options, but you put down what you would like to see. So the options are really what we might call as prompters, starters, but if they're not, as Brent says, what you think should happen, tell us what you think should happen. Yeah. Okay, it's a bit like if you offer a child, if you say to a child, do you want some fruit? And they go no, but if you say apple or pear, they'll choose one. So really the options are starters, but we welcome any feedback because we don't have all the answers. So over to Lisa, who's the project manager.
Thanks, Bex. So welcome everyone. So before I get into the detail of the options,
You need to speak up.
Oh, right. Okay. Before I get into the detail of the options, just want to outline that both the town hall and the municipal building have heritage listing in the district plan. So what that means is that a resource consent is required to demolish or partially demolish the building, so the front and back of the building. And the earthquake prone notice doesn't alleviate that situation. We still have to get resource consent, even though we have to take the town hall down. However, our planning team advised this is the rationale. This will be rationale for approval of that. So the effect said 3 options for the town hall and municipal buildings. So our preferred option is to demolish the town hall and the municipal buildings, retaining the facade, and build a new town hall on the site and extend this building Waiata House. The alternative option is to demolish the town hall, build a new town hall on the site and refurbish the municipal building, including the facade. We would need to retain this building as well, because that building isn't big enough to house all the staff, as well as all the council functions, customer service and so on. So we would need to retain our existing space as well. Alternative option 2 is the do minimum option. So demolish the town hall and municipal buildings, don't replace any of them. We'll retain Waiata, and we won't retain the facade either, so that it will be gone. The whole lot will be gone. We haven't decided what we'll do with that space yet. I'll get into that a bit more. We'll then retain this building and the Queen Street building. So those are the options at a high level. I'll explain more in detail now. So preferred option, so as I say, extend this building. We'd have a new multi-purpose theatre on the site. So demolish both the buildings in the town hall municipal, build a multi-purpose flexible space so that it'll be an event space, a big event space, which will seat 700 people, 1,000 standing, but it can be broken down into smaller rooms as well. For instance, the foyer would be a functioning room of its own, with host functions in the foyer, and smaller spaces as well, so it'd be flexible. So it would have the seating that they have at the Fashion Event Centre, where it sort of stacks back, and you've got the big space. So you've got a cabaret space, a theatre space, a performance space. We could have, because it'd be multi-purpose, two events in there at the same time, because the spaces will be separate. The extension of Waiata House, what this will contain isn't offices for staff on the proposed extension. What will be there will be a publicly accessible council chambers. This current room is the council chambers at the moment. So it will be a publicly accessible council chambers, publicly accessible meeting rooms and facilities, the civil defence facility, that's the regional Waipa-wide civil defence facility. Current reception will be reconfigured for customer services. So customer services will come over from its current place in Queen Street. And of course, go along with customer services requires a lot of storage. So when you go to customer services to get a new recycling bin or forms or whatever, they have to be stored somewhere. So that's at that site. So you'll have storage in the new building. There'll be storage for our environmental services team. So they go and seize equipment that has to be stored in a safe place. It will be in that building, as well as a small laboratory for those environmental services teams as well, who go and collect wastewater samples or water samples from around. They have to be packaged up in a clean space. So it will be a space for them as well. And finance will relocate from customer services in where they are currently located in Queen Street to this room. So this will become where finance work from. So that's what that extension is. So it's a 2-storey, footprint is 400 metres squared, but 800 metres squared, but it's across 2 floors. Contingency. So coming on to the costs. So this is a picture, so what we call bulk and massing diagram. So what basically bulk and massing means, it's a first step in the design process, just gives you an overarching form that the building will take. So the shape and scale of the building. They are done by an architect. This is a an impression of the architect's drawing, but we did engage an architect to do these designs. So the cost for this option is $30 more per annum, so $4.40 per week by year 5. Should actually go back, and I think I missed.
Excuse me, could I ask a question? That repayment that you just quoted, is that including a capital repayment or is that the interest cost only on the loan?
It's debt servicing, so it's loan repaid over 25 years. So that the
Principal and interest.
yes, yeah, and the number that's quoted is for an average urban residential property. So there's different rates for commercial property, rural. So we couldn't quote every different type of property in that number.
Sorry, while I missed, just a point of clarification. You refer to the demolition of 2 buildings, but I understand the town hall actually consists of 3 buildings.
So yes, so there is 3. So the what's called the civil defence building as well. There is 3 buildings.
You're including the civil defence building within the municipal building.
Yeah, they'll all come down, that whole space.
Just on the topic of the rates there, is this sum included in the estimates, the rates estimates for 2025? Or is this on top of it?
I mean, the current proposal
So the
is the one.
estimates that are on our rating and the information that's on the website, there's an option to look at, next year's, those estimates, do they?
This project is timed over years 2, 3 and 4. And by year 5, which is when we're projecting those numbers to have impacted the rates, that's what the increase is. Year 1, there's no costs being incurred for this project yet.
And this would be an average cost, so you could be higher.
It'll be higher the higher the value of the property.
What I should have said, so the capital cost, estimated capital cost for this option is 42.6 million, which includes a 33% contingency, which is high because, of course, we've just got the bulk and massing diagram at the moment, so the contingency is high, but as you move through the design process, contingency will be reduced. So this is the worst case scenario for this option.
Is it fair to say the extra 3.2 million in year 5 onwards is roughly 7.5% of the rate growth? As a percentage of the total rates, I estimate it's about 7 to 7.5 in year 5.
I haven't got the number of the rates number in my head for year 5. So the 3.2 million is approximately the additional cost, and most of that is debt servicing for this option.
Yeah, but I suppose what I'm saying is that under the current rates, 3.2 million extra is pretty well just on 8% extra. And by year 5, with the rising rates, I'd estimate it to be 7% extra, which also raises the question in year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, if you didn't have this, presumably you would be facing rates decreases. But maybe you could come back to us.
There's some more information in some of the later slides on the rates impacts.
Could I ask the question, does that particular calculation of yours take into consideration the increase in the number of ratepayers? The amount of improvements and buildings that are going on in Masterton at the moment, if they continue, we will be a city.
1.5%, 1.5% a year.
Yeah, we've done a minimal growth expectation of 1.5%. We've had higher growth than that over the last few years. So we can take a high, a low or a medium. We've just taken a low at this stage because it's better to be unsurprised rather than too surprised. So we're looking at 1.5%. Question over there? Oh, well, I wanted to get through the town hall presentation.
One thing that confuses me a little bit on what I've seen, and I may have missed the point,
it looks as though you're going to use quite a lot of the old footprint to get a big area, and you're talking 700 people or something. Is there any room left for one of the most important parts of the old building, which was the Cody room?
Cody room will be gone.
The Cody room, I think if you look at your records, wasn't 100% booked. It was blimmin' hard to get actually in there. In other words, it was in use far more than the big area. So I would hate to think that you take up all of that.
Well, what I said earlier was that it'd be a flexible space. It won't be just one big area. It'll be smaller areas too. So there'll be likely, well, we haven't done the detailed design yet, but there'd likely be a space that's smaller than the same size as the Cody, smaller, a bit bigger, we don't know. But it won't be just one big space. It will be flexible space, which we can make lots of smaller spaces as well as a big space.
I've got a question. What this gentleman has just said, what's the use of building a big one and a little one? Since the Hunt Club stopped having their ball there about 25 years ago, and the book sale, how many people, 700 people at a time, have been in that hall?
Those figures in front of me. We don't have those figures in front of me.
I'm sure you haven't, because
I've been to quite a few events, one has been a big crowd by that.
name them.
It's not the expos.
Can I just suggest, and I'm not dismissing any of the questions, but we've got 3 options. I'd just like to go through the 3 options for the town hall, and then we can answer questions on the town hall, because they're all quite different. And I think it's quite not a bad idea if we get Lisa to just explain the differences first, and then we can field questions on the town hall in its entirety. But yes, I mean, there haven't been hundreds and thousands of functions that big. Of course there haven't, but there have been some.
How many have there been?
Couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you, but in this presentation it also tells you if options were pursued, what the next steps would be, and that may answer one of your questions too, with regards to looking at demand for the venue.
Truthfully.
Yeah, look, a demand analysis for the venue. So we'll probably come back to that one if that's all right.
Yeah, okay. So the alternative option 1 is to build a new town hall and refurbish the municipal building, retaining Waiata House. So, and that's because if we refurbish the municipal, as I said earlier, we won't all fit in there, not just the staff, but the council functions, customer service, ignore the functions that council performs, so won't fit in that space. So we would need to retain another space. What this option, what the cost of this option is 49.9 million, which includes 35% contingency. So that's higher than the previous contingency, and that's because this is a risky option. There's a higher level of risk and uncertainty with this option, and we won't have enough space to house all the staff. We won't have a regional civil defence facility. This is again a broken mapping diagram of what it may look like. So you can see the town hall there in orange. I can point up here with a big stick. Town hall here, the refurbished municipal building on Chapel Street. And we've retained Waiata House, and that's the Waiata House secure car parking. What that diagram also shows too is that the space actually isn't fit for purpose. So a flexible staging part that will be used for events like kapahaka and big performances. You need parking for events like that, kapahaka, to drop equipment off, bus loads of kids and so on. So that space is not fit for purpose for that. It's not big enough. The advice that we've had on this option is from the engineer's advice on this option. There's too many risks with it. So that building, the 3 buildings are interconnected. So if we take the town hall down, which we have to do, and leave the municipal, we're at risk of municipal building falling down. The drawings that we have are old, so when it was built initially and also refurbished later, it's not well documented. So we don't know what we don't know. So that's why that is a higher contingency with this option because of the risk and uncertainty. Once we start work on that building, we like to find all sorts of things. We're likely to have a Wellington Town Hall situation on our hands if we pursue this option. Hence why this one is not our preferred option. Both the build options have an option to retain the facade. Now, all walls, exterior walls, are considered facade. So I think when people think of retaining the facade, I think they think of the bit facing the town square, the face of the building, and the chapel.
Sorry, could you speak up?
Okay. All walls, exterior walls, are considered facade. So when people think of the facade, I think they think of the Chapel Street side of the building and the square that faces the square. It's the back of the building as well. So all walls are considered facade. We're not proposing to keep that bit. The car parking bit is essentially just an old brick wall that will go, but we will need to get resource consent to take that down. The cost to retain the facade and build is approximately nearly $2 million essentially. And
Can I just point out though, the cost to retain the facade is in the previous option?
yes,
It's not additional to.
so it's included in the two other costs.
Yeah.
What the extra cost is for more careful demolition, steel propping when we're building to keep the facade up, and then making good as well. So making good the windows and painting it and all those things. So that's the cost. Of course, you can have your say on whether we retain the facade or not. We would like to know what your thoughts are on that. And then alternative option 2 is to demolish the town hall and municipal buildings, retain my outer house and Queen Street. So status quo, but the building comes down and the facade. The estimated cost to demolish the building is $3.57 million, including 28% contingency. A bit less than the other two because we know a bit more about it.
In relation to that, you'll be aware that there is there's going to be a review of earthquake.
Yes.
Are you coming to that now? And the timing for this, said the axe was going to fall in what, 2026?
2000, yes, 28.
Yeah, so that's now 2028.
Yes.
It starts in April this year, so 4 years it's been extended for.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Yeah. So does that impact on these plans at all?
No. The next steps, if the preferred option is approved, and that's the way the community wants to go, the next steps would be we would procure an architect to design the building. We would update the demand analysis. I don't know if you've looked at the website, the Howarth reports. We would update the demand analysis. We would develop an event strategy, identify operational costs, and then do detailed design and engagement on all of that. So they would be the next steps.
So in answer to your question, the demand analysis would identify potential users, numbers, groups, organisations, that kind of thing. So it would look at the demand and the usage for the facility.
You haven't done that already?
We've already done one, but it was based on the civic facility that was proposed for the last long-term plan. And also too, because we don't know the outcome of this process, we're trying to be mindful of ratepayers' money. So
Yes.
these are depending on what option is passed by council, then that therefore then follows on to what needs to be done.
Those reports are quite expensive to actually undertake. So hence,
I don't,
those reports, those demand analysis are actually quite expensive to undertake. So hence we haven't updated it.
you get consultants to do that.
Yes.
Well, can't do it yourself.
Well, you haven't got the figures from the previous usage of the town hall.
No.
Okay? If you had those, you could give us a pretty good idea how much it would be used with a brand new one.
Well, times have changed as well, haven't they?
Using the old one and the new one.
Sid?
A very important point.
Can you speak up, please, Sid?
I feel this is a very important point. And what the council, with this consultation and submission procedure that we're going through, there's so much airy-fairy and not enough detail to base these decisions on. And I'm that incensed about it. All I can say is have a look at this coming Saturday's Times Age.
And did you have a question?
I was just going to say about that, the report. What if it comes back and says, you know, you're kidding yourselves, it's not worth it, you're not going to get the events like we used to. I mean, times have changed. Younger people don't go to town halls anymore. Big events don't happen in areas like Masterton because we don't have we're geographically isolated. We don't have an airport that brings people in big
I
conferences.
think the report said that. Didn't
And
you?
what if it-
You obviously read it, Lynn.
I have read it,
Yeah.
believe me. But what if it comes back and says the same thing? Is this enough to stop you from going ahead with this?
It could be.
I guess sort of the feeling around the room is, why aren't we doing it first? I know you're trying to save money, but I would have thought it would be more prudent to do a business case analysis first before you head down the track of a major multi-million-dollar project to make sure it was worthwhile.
I cannot believe you're asking people to agree to proposals that you haven't properly costed out. You don't know exactly what you're going to do, and you don't know who's going to use it. You don't know whether this new facility will cannibalise the business of the Carterton Centre or the income that local schools get from renting out their halls and so forth, or whether it will cannibalise other commercial businesses. I would have expected, before you ask anybody for an approval to go ahead, you will have worked through what the demand is, identified demand, an appropriate demand that will pay for the facility, and you'll have a proper business plan. And this is information that within a, excuse me a second, this is information that within a commercial organisation you would get first before the proposal goes to the board and gets sanctioned. Doing it the other way around is, in my opinion, an absolute nonsense.
Well, could I just answer it the way that I see that, is that we first of all needed to know whether you wanted a town hall. We want to know that. When we get into this part of the town hall debate, as you'll see up there, we then go to community engagement. So we will be going through all that process. And there will be an opportunity if the evidence comes back during that process. So I can tell you there'll be councillors around the table who will be having quite a say if they feel like it's going to a place where we shouldn't go.
But just to come back on your point, I think many people would agree that the functions that you need for the town hall have to be fit for purpose. You have to have somewhere to conduct the council business in an efficient and effective manner. You have to have somewhere that allows the electorate to come and see what you're doing at first hand. You have to have an appropriate civil defence facility. The last 4 or 5 years and the various incidents around the country have demonstrated that without doubt. So you would be remiss in not providing appropriate facilities for those 3 objectives that you have for the new building.
So those will be delivered by the extension of Waiata House.
That's fine, and I'm very happy with the extension of the way out the house. The council has a duty to make Masterton an attractive place for people to come to want to live and work by providing appropriate amenities and facilities. Now, what's appropriate is a very subjective manner, because what I like to do is not necessarily the same as what you like to do and facilities. I think it's important that the council, as it is today, is encouraging local societies by providing small meeting rooms at affordable prices, such as the education room, for example. Okay, and that's all very fine, but I really do not understand why you need a 700 seating facility. And I don't know whether that facility, because you haven't explained yet, whether that includes like kitchens and dining facilities, or whether it's simply an entertainment performing arts venue. And I think before jumping into putting in such a facility, you have to really understand what is the need for it, and how you're going to pay for it, because you need to know the operating cost. You need to ask yourself, is the Masterton District Council the appropriate organisation to be managing such a venue and aggressively marketing it? And will that aggressive marketing cannibalise on income from other groups that are already relying on that income, such as the schools, for example?
Thank you. And that we will be done with the demand analysis. Respect your point.
Yeah, no, you made a lot of good points, but the first thing we need to know and what we're trying to get out of this is, do you want a town hall? Do you want a facility?
But we don't know whether we want, in my opinion, we don't know whether we want the damned function.
Can I just clarify?
Good point.
So when we say town hall, we mean the performance space. The municipal buildings are where council and council functions operate from. That's a differentiation. So town hall is literally a hall, a performance space, or whatever.
I'll rephrase my comment, is we want municipal buildings, but I don't know that we necessarily want a town hall with that definition.
We got that. Thank you. Thank you. That's excellent. Tracy?
I might be one of the only people in the
Can
room.
you speak up, please?
I might be one of the only people in the room, but I've always been really keen to keep the facade and to build a town hall there. And I think to have a multi-purpose space will be really good. I think there's a brand new building will bring a lot of people to it, especially when you can use it for different venues. What I'd like to see perhaps is that the Waiata House portion of $8 million is actually comes a separate project and comes out of that town hall preferred option to bring the price of the town hall down. And we look at Waiata House as a separate option at a different time, because we have currently got use of the Queen Street building.
And can I just say, because, there's, 50 people in the room, we're all going to have different opinions, which is great, and we want to hear them, which is the whole exercise of the long-term plan, but we're not going to solve those problems tonight. And I also don't want to get into this is what I want, this is what we want, this is what you want, because that's what we want to hear with the submission and feedback process. And we honestly do, because we don't have a predetermined outcome. And all the councillors around the table have different and varying opinions on this. This tonight is to try and give you more information. So that will either solidify how you're already feeling, or it may add more value to some of to what your thoughts are. It may give you more information to clarify your stance. So that's really designed for today, and I value everyone's points that they've made, absolutely. But what we want to do is present you with the options and then get your feedback through the long-term plan.
I think, Pixar, could be worth mentioning there that you're talking about staging.
Yes.
That's possible. we could do the town hall
Yeah.
before we do Waiata House, absolutely.
Or vice
Or
versa.
Or vice versa, we could do Waiata House before we do the town hall. Now, the cost of, it's interesting,
Yeah,
the
so
town hall
Waiata-
without Waiata House is,
So about 32 million and
30.
Waiata plus inflation, and Waiata House is $7-8 million. So that's why we've got two separate designs and two separate costs, so we can deliver them separately. We would likely, if both options went ahead, stage them anyway. So yeah, absolutely, they can be separated out.
Alex?
Yes. Has the option of using the departmental building to greater advantage been explored for the council officers?
It's not available. It's not available.
Is it fully occupied?
Not fully occupied, but recently Ngāti Kahungunu have moved in there. And they're looking to also take another floor there.
Shame it hadn't been looked at earlier.
It was considered when the council moved out of the municipal building, a floor in that building and the Queen Street were compared in terms of options, and the Queen Street was the better option, particularly for public access.
Parking, the departmental building is vastly superior to the Queen Street one.
We'll go over here. Yes. 2016. We'll just go here and then we'll come to you. So
Yes, if the review of earthquake buildings came up with more relaxed requirements, you know, and is the town hall absolutely unsalvageable if the requirements were reduced?
they're not actually changing the requirements. They're just lengthening out the
Time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a review of the requirements, and in order to free up and actually looking at businesses, particularly with this government, we're looking at making it more possible for people to do things for the economy, for business and so on. That's not.
And also the earthquake prone restrictions for a public facility are higher as well, because we have community liability.
Yeah, it might be worth sort of considering.
If anyone's been in there and looked under floors, you wouldn't want to go from there.
We had another question, sir.
Sorry.
I'm interested in the town hall. Sorry, my name's Scott Lelieve. I was pastor of the Baptist Church and I was also chairman of the Masterton Council of Churches. And so to answer the question over there, we did use the town hall in 2016 where we had a Pentecost service, which is all the churches combining, and we filled up the town hall. We had 600 people there. And afterwards we used the kitchen and we all spilled out onto the town square and we had morning tea and it was a wonderful community time. So we kind of value the town hall and we love that facade. I guess my question is, because I followed the last local body election really closely, looking at the town hall and what people said, and just about everyone seemed to say, we'll reopen the town hall if elected. And so those people get elected, and then it just seemed after the election, it just all seemed to, everything seemed to change. And we went back to consultation, we went back to, we'll do a cycleway down the length of Masterton, and the town hall just seemed to die. So I'm just surprised that before the election and after the election, everything seems to have changed. And so is it not possible to renovate the town hall at all? You know, because we have a building, is it not possible to renovate it and to some degree? Because it stood there since the beginning of the 20th century. So it survived the 1942 earthquake and every earthquake since then. Like, is that not possible? We have something there that we could use. We would use it again for Pentecost services. We would use it for a Good Friday service probably. We would use it for a number of things. And I'm sure there's other community groups that would use it as well. Is it not possible to renovate it and to tidy it up and, you know, do this at a less cost? So I'm just interested. That would be my question.
The cost to renovate the municipal building is about $28 million or more, actually, nearly $30 million just to renovate the building. It's huge. It's not a cost-effective option at all, which is why it was ruled out. And this option of building the extension of Waiata House was proposed and now is our preferred option, because that was just so costly. The town hall has to come down, and refurbishing the municipal is just too costly. And then
the town hall has to come down, so it can't be used.
No, it can't. It has to come down, and they can interconnected. So, and just a municipal building just is not fit for purpose. It won't fit us all in. Yeah.
I think I'd like to join in there too and mention is that one of the things that really frustrated us at council, and take your point, is that we had to go back under the law and unpick the decision of the previous council. And that's why it's taken so long. It's just such a process. If we could have cracked on with it, it would have been great. But we've spent the first 18 months of this council unpicking what had been done before. And that's why we've done that. Yeah.
We'll just take one here and then I'll come to you. Yes, sir?
The gentleman there has made the most sense to me tonight that I've heard. You made a decision to put something back where the old town hall is. You've told me that you can fix up the facade, that you can actually get that earthquake proof. Now, I'm not an engineer, but you've got a perfectly good area of town hall in terms of what we had. I believe the 400 or 500 that you got inside there is about the number that you should be looking at, not 700. I think it'll be empty more often than not. Now, if you can't tell me that you can't get big steel structures that they make a roof over what's there now, take out what you have to and refurbish the inside, that it won't come within cooing of 40 odd million. Because you can put up brand new roof structures that would be fully earthquake thing on the current site over what's there, so we're secure. It's not earthquake risky. Leave the coding room where it is. Leave the hall where it is. Let's have some new kitchens and new toilets and new other bits that we need. And if you do need some more office space for the council, demolish those office rooms and things and do what you want with them. But I really can't see why everything has to come down, be pulled down, we keep the facade and start off anew with a completely new building. I'm sorry, I can't get it.
And that's okay, because we've got three options and one of the options does include refurbishing.
I think two bits, if we could say to that gentleman, because I mean, I understand what he's saying. I mean, I fought like hell for that, actually, exactly that. Then we were told we couldn't do it. But this is when Bex and them were saying at the start, there's room to write that option down, put that option in your submission, because then we can look at, see if it can be investigated. It's just pity Dave Borman's not here, because he would have answered that a bit better than us.
It's a pity Dave Borman's not here, because he put a thing in the paper last year on what his idea for the town hall was on the parking. Well, part of his parking was to shrink the senior citizens hall. Now, where's it going? Who's paying for it? Because nobody's come to the senior citizens committee, and we own the hall, not the council.
That's because it hasn't been discussed.
Well, he had it on the paper.
Yeah, but that was completely separate to anything to do with council.
So we want to know where we stand.
You stand exactly where you are in your premise.
Council has never discussed it.
Is that hall is used 6 days out of 7?
I can tell you it's never been discussed or even come to the table.
Right.
Yeah. Brent.
You mentioned that the proposed space could have a couple of events at the same time. And it mentions in the Harless report the almost impossibility of achieving acoustic separation in that sort of space you're talking about. And I've never seen any of those movable walls that achieve acoustic
Doesn't
separation.
necessarily need to be a performance like that. You could have a smaller meeting or a bridge club, or as well as an event or a drinks function in the foyer. Not talking about two different like dance performances. For
It's just difficult to have a meeting when you can hear the show next door.
So conceptually, you could have several events in the space.
Harless specifically mentions a very unlikely ability to pull that one off.
So can we, are there any other questions? Yes, I was wondering about the car parking
If you're having a group of 700 people, where are they all going to park? And what about disabled parking? Well, there will be disabled parking, but if we look at big cities around the world, you don't necessarily need to park. There will be parking directly outside, but there's parking around Masterton, not far away, walking distance as well. So that's what happens in Wellington or anywhere you go. Is don't have big car parks outside an event centre, but there will be some parking there.
Somebody else? Chris?
Thanks. An aspect I'd like to see discussed more, both within council and out of council and community, is that line that you've said is a priority consideration for you in the 2003 report that went to council, that the carbon and environmental footprint is important. And I mean, whatever we build, whether we keep the facade or not, we're building something that, you know, town halls are a statement from your town about the future. And you know, the future has to be less carbon intensive. And, you know, and I think that will be the point, should be the point of pride, that people in 2 or 3 decades can look back and say that we have the nous then to be looking forward and to be and to be realising that the world has changed and the world is changing. You know, and I think maybe the most important thing to decide is the procurement of the architect, because you know, the architects will be on the right side of history.
Yes.
And like, for example, I mean, in 50 years' time, nobody will be building in cement and steel. And you know, they're talking about the age of wood that we're going into. They've got buildings overseas that are 50 stories high built of wood. You know, my understanding, it needn't be any more expensive. But it could be something that we could, especially our younger generation, would be really proud to be involved with and proud to consider, whether you keep the facade or not. You know, and I think, you know, in all my time in council, although that line is there, it was never discussed, and it isn't being discussed now. And I think that's important. I mean, and like, for example, one of the sort of the rule of thumb, if you like, for green builds is that the building you already have is the greenest building that you'll ever get, you know. And I'm not saying that means that we should keep the facade or keep any part of the building willy-nilly, but it means we should be taking that into account. To me, it's as important as that how affordable it is. And if we build it right and build an energy with energy efficiency in mind, it will be cheaper anyway in the long run.
Thank you, Chris. Yes.
A pretty simple question. Which of the 2 buildings, the municipal buildings and the existing town hall, which of those 2 buildings was built first?
I don't know, actually. Gary, you're the oldest here.
You know, it's actually older than me, so if he doesn't know, I won't know. To be honest, Hugh, I don't know. Do you know, Dave?
I think that the town hall, the building was built in 1915 and damaged in the 1942 earthquake and rebuilt. So it took 10 years before it was reopened in 1952. And that rebuilding considerably altered the structure of both buildings. And then in the 1980s, the civil defence building was put on the end and the back of the town hall was extended.
So when were the municipal buildings built?
The original building was
The older.
1915, I believe, the plaque on the front says.
So the facade was built at the same time as the original town hall.
Yes, and it had a lot more decoration on it.
Why would they have been built as separate buildings then?
I don't know. The separation that the town hall has the the wall between it and the back of the municipal.
There are separate buildings.
There are connections.
They've got
What I'm
connecting.
driving at is questioning the fact that to refurbish the municipal buildings without, it's the connection between the two buildings. So if the town hall building was there, has been there longer, then theoretically, in a separate building, that structurally, they should not be dependent on each other. They may have a connection, obviously, because they're right next to each other. But structurally, where's that come from?
Engineering, engineers reports.
Well, 2 years ago, I was actively involved with the Masterton Vision Group. And that was not an issue 2 years ago. It's become an issue with this long-term plan.
So no, the engineer's report is dated, it's at least a couple of years old, so it's been around for a while.
And Dave's aware of that too, of the connector. Are there any more questions on Colin?
Thank you. One thing that was touched on by Chris, which I think is important, the decision that council is going to make on our behalf after discussion is for the future as much as today. When people, I'm probably the oldest person in this room, anybody, I won't go into ages, but I won't be here probably when the building's finished if it was started tomorrow.
He won't tell you his age, but he told me he's got 10 years to get the King's birthday.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, getting back to the point I want to make, the decision we are making here, or the council is making ultimately, is for the future. Do we want to be the only city in the country without a town hall? And we don't want a town hall with 500 seats. In my younger days, I did a lot of performing on the stage. You may not know, I'm an actor. And a theatre, which has only got 500 or 600 seats, and Brent would be able to confirm this, I'm sure, is not worth having. You have to be 750 upwards. And having it here is going to attract its use. You can't compare it with what we're actually getting today with nothing.
So
It goes to Canada.
Remember, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. We'll be here all night if everybody's going to share their view. No, I think that's fabulous. But I'm just saying if everybody now wants to debate whether Colin's right or whether Colin's wrong, but we must respect everybody's view on the options. As council will respect everybody's view. Tonight is about gathering more information so that you can firm up what you want to happen and have your say. But thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Bex.
Okay. We do have more water.
already. Thank you. You did well. You did well.
Okay, so that's the town hall side of it. Any questions or clarification about the subject matter? Okay, and remember, if you don't like any of the options, tell us what you do think should happen.
Bex,
Yep.
is there any opportunity that you could put out a design competition for the town hall? Thinking of along the lines of what Chris was saying, young architects around the country, put up a prize and design something.
That's the next phase.
But in answer to Chris's question on the criteria, should the project go ahead, one of them is that it has to reflect, if we were to build it, would reflect Masterton. You know, we don't want a building that you could stick it in any city and it's just nothing to do with who we are and what we are in the community that we represent. The other thing is that it needs to talk to our heritage, and we would work with iwi on that as well, and also Chris, green aspirations, sustainability, and there has been talk about salvaging much of the demolition material from the old town hall. So, you know, those conversations are not and not being had, but until a decision is made, it's very difficult to progress any further. And the other thing is too, that if the bill was to proceed, a trust would also be formed that would focus on external fundraising. So when Lisa brought up the costs there, they're the worst case scenario with the contingencies, and they're also not taking into account external funding opportunities. So, yeah. So, Stuart, last question. That's all right.
It's all about timing. The council has an obligation to have this long-term plan finished in June, is my understanding.
Yes.
And my understanding also is that if you were to receive enough opposition to all of these three options, that would delay the long-term plan because you'd be obligated to take it out. It wouldn't. So you can do that. So we can take the town hall off the agenda if there's enough opposition to it.
Yeah, it's.
But the opposition, the opposition to it, it doesn't come down if there's 200 people want to do something and 100 don't. That doesn't mean that 200 win.
What I'm saying is if you had 300 submissions and 80% of them said they didn't want the town hall to proceed, would you accept that and push the town hall out of the long-term plan?
It would come down to a council decision, Hewitt, as to whether we do that or not. Because there's a whole lot of things. I mean, we'd be looking at all the submissions and whatever.
I understand all that, but it's pretty bloody simple. If you've got 80% of the submissions.
If you've got 80%, so far, Hewitt, we've got 150. Let's be honest, we've got 150 submissions. We've got a population of 30,000. If we say we get 300 submissions, is that telling us what the people who haven't submitted really think? You know, we have to take that into account.
Because you've told me.
Because we're getting a hell of a lot of people saying to us.
You've given me the answer.
Yeah, we're getting a hell of a lot of people saying to us, and I mean this seriously, I know it sounds as if we're trying to do something, we're not, but I've gone to so many meetings where people have said, just crack on with what you're doing, we're behind you. I'll say to them, will you put a submission in? And I go on about it and they say, no, just go ahead and do what you're doing.
They don't care.
You don't hear from those people.
Earlier on, you put figures up, 120 people, 65% or whatever it was, and 1,001 people. I can't remember what the percentage was. You take the notes of those.
No, we were showing you what submissions we received and what responses we had.
Right.
Yeah, so the submissions that we received help the council to inform their decision making. It's not like a vote where it's actually the decision point. We gather as much information as we can from the community as part of the process to enable council to take the views of the community into consideration when making that.
I just remember the last, the process with the previous council, when the location of the town hall was the issue. And most of the community, or most of those who submitted, wanted it to be on the same spot, to say where it is, keep it where it is. But the council went out looking for other venues all over town and everything collapsed. So I would hate that to happen again. The majority, the people who cared, who actually.
I think we better keep the last council stuff out.
That in itself we considered as a submission, the hands around the hall, because that was the local community showing a different way of responding to what they felt clearly passionate about. So we take into account not just submissions. Submissions are a part of it.
And I suppose one of the main things is
you didn't have your hand up.
There's a great poll taken in 18 months' time.
Which is the election.
And council, if I know council, won't have started much by then. So you'll all get another whack at it.
And also to the gentleman's point about the people that got re-elected, and I'll make a point on this, which is, and your point's valid, of course, Brent, is that the councillors that got re-elected last election were the ones that said we will rebuild on the spot, retain the facade, but it needs to be affordable. they were the councillors that got re-elected. The ones for a new civic facility in a different location didn't. So apropos your point, elections next October. However, and that's why.
Not a referendum.
No.
It isn't poll.
Apropos that though, which is why I said at the beginning, is it affordable? Because that's subjective. So yes, it's the current site. Yes, there's options if they rebuild can retain the facade. The question is really the third criteria, is it affordable?
On top of the existing rates increase, isn't it? Mine's 11%. I've worked it out from that. Yeah. So I've got an 11% increase already, and I've got a fixed income, and I don't really want it to go any higher. I want to be reduced.
So you know, there's all these equations that come into the decision, but also too, as Gary might have said, you know, the council is elected to make decisions. They've been criticised for not making decisions and dragging things on too long. So the intention is that we will come to some decision in the June long-term plan.
Good.
But that's why we're beseeching people that whether you're for or against or don't, or sit somewhere else completely entirely, how do we know if you don't tell us?
And how do we know you're going to listen?
We will listen. We may not agree with you, but we will listen.
But how many councillors that present and past have actually run a business? Yeah, but that's a number.
Can we move on? Can we move on? It's only 20.
I'm just interested how much the council forecast for all the stuff.
Got any idea about the
I
cost
can
of it
tell
all?
you that.
Our comms man, where's he?
Hiding in the corner. I haven't added it all up yet. So,
This is Matt.
yeah, everyone, my name's Matt. I'm the Chief Advisor here at Masterton District Council. I used to be the comms man. They disestablished my position, so you're one comms person down. You'll be happy to hear
But he's
that.
still here.
You'll be happy to hear you can't hear any like a bad smell. I just pop up somewhere else. I like MasterCard bread. I'm everywhere you want to be. I don't have the final figure, but we do have a budget. So the budget is set aside for all annual plan, long-term plan over the course of the 24 months is $20,000. We spent $9,000 on the last annual plan for printing stuff and getting stuff out. So we're under budget, so it's less than $11,000, but I haven't got a final because we've had to reprint another 50 of these today because they're going out. So we're within a $20,000 budget for all of the annual plan and long-term plan consultation over the last financial year.
Advertising.
Just before I come to your question, sorry, David, I didn't introduce you. We've got another councillor here, David Holmes.
No, I'm not asking a question. I'm just saying, wind it on because people want to hear about the library as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so last two, Dick.
So, sorry, Bex, but just a bit of left field here question. I just wonder whether any thought has been given to the eyesight site building going in within this new complex. I personally think the eyesight building's in the wrong place. And I think if you have a vibrant town square, civic centre operating as a centre of town, that's where it needs to be.
Last term, yes, it was raised. This term, no, but we have had discussions with them separately. But not in this, it won't be going in this context if this goes ahead. Yeah. Did we have one over here?
No, sorry, I just suggested, could we move on?
Oh, yes. So listen, I just think we need to move on to the library and the archive now. So we'll just run through the same format. Lisa will brief you on the options. And then if we could hold questions to the end, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so library and archive, again, 3 options. Our third option is to upgrade and expand the library and consider the extension to the archive in the future. So not in this long-term plan, in the future long-term plan. So library only for this time. Alternative option 1, upgrade and expand the library and include the archive now. And the alternative option 2 is the do minimum option, which is complete essential repairs and maintenance. We have to do something to the library. So that is a do minimum option. Just take you through the options in a bit more detail. For the preferred option, estimated capital cost of $10.75 million. And why that is our preferred option? Because it addresses the immediate issues of the building. So the building isn't watertight, there's no lift in the, there's no lift in the building, there's accessibility issues at the front entrance. So we'll address those, as well as you'll get a fit for purpose library space, so it can be used for events and activities, community events and activities. It becomes a community hub essentially. There'll be a creative classroom, but we will keep the land to retain, we'll retain the land for the build of the archives in the future. And then just this is the high-level drawing of it. So you'll see the light blue L shape is the extension. So that is total of 444 metres squared of new floor space, which includes 80 metres squared for programmes and activities, 60 metres squared creative classroom, there'll be a youth area, small public meeting rooms in the community lounge, so you can book meet rooms in the library, and about 15% more space for books. And there'll be a lift installed as well. So at the moment, there is no lift, so it's inaccessible both in the basement and the top floor for both staff and people with disabilities. So this option is $70 more per annum, or $1.30 per week. The alternative option, upgrade and expand the library and the archive now. That option is just $14.6 million. The reason why it's not our preferred option is because of the extra costs. We thought it was unaffordable, so we proposed the other option. This is the diagram. So what you can see is you get an extra 10,080 metres squared space. The reason it's a lot more space but not that much money comparatively is because the archive space is a relatively simple space. It's a big space, but it's relatively simple. So that's why. So you'll get all the same things that the previous option delivers, but 640 metres squared of archive space. And that's $99 more per annum. And the final option, alternative option, complete essential repairs and maintenance only. So that says there'd be a new roof, address the water damage and leaking issues in the building, the heating and cooling systems, and the accessibility at the front entrance only, not a lift. So it doesn't give any more space for programmes. The archive would remain where it is, just over the road. And we would still have, so that option is $2.3 million, which includes 30% contingency.
Those are 2.3 million. Does that make it fit for purpose?
So what that will do is it will fix the building issue, so we'll have a healthier building for staff. However, what it won't do is make the building fit for what modern library usage. So libraries now are not just about small rooms where you go and read a book. They're more of a community hub where people run events from, and spaces for the community.
Well, there's other facilities around town too. I think there needs to be an inventory of what's available. There's the read, there's the Harlequins is not, no, I wasn't thinking that. So, but I do think there needs to be some research done on that too. But this has come out, shouldn't this come out of the existing budget? Why is it an extra cost?
Why would it?
Oh, this doesn't, the $2.3 million doesn't affect rates. It comes from R&M.
Ah, good, that's good to know.
Doesn't it? Essential maintenance option. Yes.
Some of the capital improvements to the building, which is what 2.3 million buys, is loan funded,
Oh,
which is why there's a small addition to the rates.
yeah, what was that? Sorry. What was it?
So the 2.3 million actually have the rate.
Oh, that's why it's not.
Or 19, actually, no, on the next slide.
Yeah.
$19 more per annum or 40 cents a week.
Okay. Sorry, you finished this one here, the fit for purpose.
Yes.
It's tossed around in every context I've come across lately. What purpose? And that's the key to it, isn't really, it's fit for what purpose? Is it?
There's two bits there to that.
Yeah,
two bits
it's a
to that
philosophical
answer.
issue, I think.
It's hiding around the corner. Maybe because when I came in.
This is Corin. Corin's manager of our community facilities, which includes the library. Do you just want to give a quick overview of what kind of programs are being held at the library and how they have to rearrange the furniture now because every time groups come in, there isn't enough space?
Yeah.
And also computer usage,
Yeah.
etc. Just quick.
Yeah. So I mean, there's computer usage and what we see in library spaces right around the country. Just by way of context to my background is libraries. I've worked in libraries for Auckland, Wellington, Palmerston North, New Plymouth, etc., and came here as the library manager. So a lot more usage now as people bring in their own devices and they're looking for spaces both to work individually but also in groups. It's very common for libraries around the country to operate in the model, which we call like a community hub, and we have that happening already, but the space isn't great for it. So we've got everything from knitting groups, obviously children's story times, the program that happens during the school holidays. Digital seniors use the library space as well. We've had Scrabble groups. There's a whole range of things where the community come to us and are looking for spaces to come together and interact. And libraries are one of the only spaces which are accessible, free for people to enter, are staffed regularly and predictably for hours for the community as well, which is why they tend to work well in this context as a hub for people to come to. So that's the rationale. It's a space where people can come together, learn, also explore what they're interested in, and also carry out meetings, community groups, those sorts of things.
And can you just give an indication of visitor numbers as well?
I've got that.
Oh, you've got your one. Okay.
So we're predicting that by the end of the year, the numbers are going to be back to pre-COVID levels. So our person visits will be approximately 179,000. That's around 15,000 more than 2020. And the dwell time is increasing as well in the libraries. And yep, this virtual visits still higher than pre-COVID.
So, excuse me, was it including virtual visits?
No, that's in-person visits. So virtual visits are increasing as well, but that's because of the apps like Libby, those that people are accessing those as well. So we've seen a rise in virtual as well as in-person visits.
Just jump in there, Jamie. So what we saw through COVID, and so I started the first week of lockdown. So my experience of reality in that library was from that point. So there was a huge plummet, obviously physical visits, because we've been open for 6 weeks. And over the course of a year and a half, really, that was massively interrupted, and it slowly has climbed back as people have got more used to coming into the space and also the programming. But the other interesting thing that we saw was a huge spike in digital use. And that happened right around the country, right? People again couldn't access this physically. But that virtual use, although it's plateaued, hasn't fallen away. So we've actually got two things going on now where previously really Masterton's library didn't have much of a digital presence and much in the way of offering that space.
And I think there's a couple of things I just wanted to point out too. The land beside the library, where the portable units are, which we put on there to accommodate the extra programs being in the library because there wasn't enough space. But that land, half of it was bought at a bargain price from Lands Trust, and the other half was gifted by Gary Daniel for the archive. So that, if you're not aware of that history, that we take that into consideration, of course, as well. Lynn.
Corin, can I just ask about the protocols? So we've spent 550,000 or 600, nearly 600,000.
I think it was about that I sent in the reply back to you today.
Yep. For that extra space, but my understanding is it doesn't get much use.
It's pretty constantly used. I think that stuff that I sent back had about there was about 16% left in terms of available space. Again, it's climbed back, right? So we had the other interruption we had in that space was the archive was in there. So straight after COVID, 2021, the WBS building, the issues with that. So there was a period of 12 months where actually the archive were using that as their home base. So again, it's taken a bit of a while for that programming to go back into that space. But it does absolutely get use. Those buildings were approved by council on the basis that in the 2015 long-term plan, there'd been an indication that they were going to refurb and expand the library, and they were a temporary solution whilst the right money came along at the right time in the LTP. Again, that opened in 2020 because it just has arrived. They're okay. Acoustically, they're not brilliant. So actually, they were done as a temporary solution to fit a purpose for a time, but they're not the ideal solution for providing community space in terms of actually right layout, acoustics for people, especially people in aging population, hearing issues, stuff like that. So that's part of the rationale of that. And the idea was always that they could be repurposed. And you're probably aware there's conversation about one of those being used as the youth hub, or that council can on-sell those buildings as well to get some return on the investment that it made.
Do we have any other questions on the library and the archive?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The basement area, which is currently not used because of the water ingress, how big is that in terms of the upstairs, the ground floor area?
It's about half the upstairs area.
So is it currently empty?
It's got some stuff in there, but it's inaccessible. So they've taken out anything that was that needed to be got out urgently. There's been some testing in terms of the stuff that's down there in terms of mould and any contamination. That's come back as very minor. So the library used that as a stat space historically. So that stuff that's down there is now not in circulation. And the issues are coming in on the back wall, close to the departmental building. That seems to be where most of the leaks come from. And indications that I've seen is it would be a solid piece of work to actually stop that ingress. Plumbers, excavators, generally say, right, if you're going to fix it, you want to fix it from the outside, plaster it from the inside. You need to stop the water getting there in the first place. So that makes it quite an invasive piece of work.
So you gain that space back later. I think my point is you're building this bigger building because you need more space, but actually you've got half a floor empty already. You gain half of that floor back in space. You won't need such a large library, surely.
So that's a decision, right? So that space was historically used as a staffing area, but underground, non-windowed dark spaces are not great spaces for people to work in. So I would never advocate for that to be turned into either a space for staff to work in or indeed for the public to be in. They're not great areas. New Plymouth did that with the children's area when they redid Pokiariki. Didn't work well because it's the dark spaces that rely on artificial light, and they're not pleasant.
It's slightly above the ground, judging by the entrance. It's you just come up a slope and it's about that much. But could you not put windows all around the bottom?
Oh, no, the basement itself is completely underground.
With all due respect, Corinne, in Toronto, half the bloody retail shopping area is underground. If you don't mind saying so.
Well, no, and the reason is, of course, just Toronto has incredibly severe winters, and that's the only way that they can keep their business.
What I'm saying, you can actually have a workable space people can work in and live in underground.
If you need.
Doesn't have to have windows.
If you need to.
For goodness sake.
If you've got the money.
Any other questions? Yeah, hi, Derek.
I'd just be interested to know what the, so we currently lease a building for the archives now.
Yes.
I'd be interested to know if you were to go with a more expensive option, or alternative option one, put it all into the one building.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Going with the alternative option one to build the bigger library and archive space, what sort of cost reduction in leasing would we sort of
The
see?
current lease is about $70,000 per annum.
It's not much.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because when we were talking about the town hall with our customer services staff at Queen Street, where the old ANZ is, that's costing us 170K in rent a year. So I think that's relevant, of course, because with the two options, depending on what the decision is and where council arrives, you know, that potentially is a 250K rent saving, or not.
70K has got to be a lot cheaper than 3.2 million a year.
Yeah, it's
Cheap servicing a
5%.
town hall.
It's about 5%.
Yes, but you're getting a lot of different assets and features with a 3.2 million. It's not comparing like with like.
Well, it's also centrally located, so it's.
Stuart?
I want to talk about the archives briefly. I know that Gary Daniel provided that land with the intention that it be utilised for archives, but the archives are basically a repository for historical records and artefacts and goodness knows what. And I know we have archive people who work there regularly, but they don't need to be sited in the middle of our central, of the CBD, in the most expensive rental part of town. Why do we have our archives in the middle of that, in the most expensive part of town? Why aren't they down on Namatara Road, for example?
Yep, it's because you can't drive out there at night, the road's shut.
I like it organised bus. But I mean, it just seems to me that there's an awful lot of emphasis here on the archives. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Gary would sit down and have a conversation with you about that, but you are using very valuable retail space in the middle of town, basically a warehouse to house historical artefacts.
That's why the options are there, and that's why we welcome your feedback.
Yeah, surely a part of the archives is it needs to be accessible to the people who want to come in and consult it. It's not just the archivists who work there that go in there, but it's it's a normal population that are looking for some information. If it's on Namatara Road, they're not going to go that far, so it has to be.
It's not just a storage facility.
And it also has to have what's the word? With the climate controlled.
Anyway, I mean, you go to any archive in the world. I've been to many archives because I'm a genealogist, and your reading rooms are quite separate to the archive building itself. And you have to order stuff and wait 48 hours sometimes to have it picked up. It can be quite separate.
And that's a
You go
level
to
of,
queue, I mean, that's how it works out there.
and that's a level of service conversation, right? So our current level of service is an accessible archive that people can walk into and they can access that stuff quite quickly. But you're right, there are models.
Reading room would be at the library.
There are other models around the world where you might have to wait 1 day, 2 days, it might be half a day, and it's all about how you do that model and how you do that retrieval.
And there are economies of scale if the archives and the library are in the same building, because you can use the same staff. So
Quite a specialist roles, I would put between an archivist and a librarian.
So
Can't be intertwined.
archivist in terms of conservation and maybe some high level stuff, yes, but in terms of reading room access and connecting people with the stuff, so searching on the computer system, finding where it is and connecting with that, is a skill that can be shared across, and we'd always have specialisation as we do in the library space as well. But what we would like to do ultimately, you know, that's why one of the options that has been explored is ultimately to have the library and the archive in the long term in a space together, so that actually we can get some efficiencies around how those services work. Auckland Library is a good example. They've got what they call the New Zealand room, which is upstairs there. It operates within the library. There's an ability to have a bit of shared stuff, but you've still got very specialised staff who work in there as well, who have a much more in-depth knowledge about that.
Sid.
Just on the preferred option situation with the library, the 0.8 million ongoing cost for that option, can anybody tell me how long that is based on or likely to carry on for?
That's why we have David.
The loan that would be taken out to build the library extension would be repaid over 25 years. And we've modelled the interest cost on that loan at 5%, which is what the average cost of council's borrowing is now. So that's what generates most of the additional cost. We're not adding staff, we're not adding other than maybe more insurance, more heating area. The operating costs of the new building we've assumed to be roughly what we're currently paying at the moment for 2 buildings.
I'll just finish this first. There are some possible external funding opportunities with the library as well. And we've already, and Masterton Trustlands Trust indicated that should the library be extended, they'd be interested in supporting a technology space. So that's just an example, because in their act, it says one of their their act stipulates library support. So I just wanted to share that. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that, but I haven't actually seen a library that's been extended or built from scratch to be a community hub. It's basically the function has declined. The traditional library function, the books, has been taken up by the electronic media, well, anyway, computers but also the reading books. But I don't need.
There's actually a really good example. Where was it?
I've come across them many times, in many libraries where that function is beginning to, well, not beginning, for the last 20 years. My son's school, for example, maybe longer than that actually. They invite people came in. They could make a lot of noise. They could lie around on the sofas and so on. You can bring coffee into the Kilburn libraries and read newspapers and so on. And people who are cold in the winter can go in and get warm, and including the street people. But in Melbourne, interestingly, I went to 3 or 4 there because I moved around Melbourne quite a bit recently, but not that long ago. But there are a lot of traditional libraries there, and that's breaking my brains. The State Library had people sitting around having English lessons, ESOL lessons, and it was very disruptive for me because I wanted the only place you get peace and quiet, and it's hard to come by these days. To have a peaceful sanctuary where you can actually look at books or read books or whatever else in the library, browse through magazines or. Yeah, I think some thought needs to be given to whether, what level we're aiming at here and why. Because if it's a community hub, it's sort of like it's a replacement for the original idea of a civic centre. I remember the architect's drawing. There were kids running around, there were people with headphones on and people having cups of tea and so on.
The civic centre that you're referring to, those drawings incorporated the library in the same building?
I don't know, but it's just that concept of a community meeting place.
So it was a different brief.
So I think we need to think about what else is available around town again. The idea of I'm just checking out what.
Do that. Take all the spaces into consideration.
I understand that 80% of people who are interviewed like now, and I wasn't. This is second-hand information. Do you know anything about the research as well? But 80% of people liked it the way it was, and because it is probably.
83.
Yeah, 83%. Sorry, that's
83% of people registered the library as satisfied with the service.
Yeah, I have excellent service, and I haven't ever felt it was overcrowded.
The service is not necessarily.
Last March.
Thank you, Brent, but the service is not necessarily reflective of the building that it's held in.
Oh, what's wrong with the building? It's just got some minor maintenance.
Yeah, and that's why it's one of the options.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I said far too much. Sorry, people.
So, are there any other questions on the library or the archive? No. Fantastic. Is that you? That's me. Done. So that's our presentation this evening. We're very thankful that you took the time to come and join us tonight, and we do value your opinions, and thank you for your opinions and also your questions. If there's any other questions that come up following this presentation, we're happy to receive them and respond, and it's absolutely no problem. But we do want to really encourage you to put your submissions in, and also too, we do have public submissions so that if you want to not just submit but also want to talk to your submission, we do run those days in May where you come and actually talk to council and get your point across. So whatever works better for you or feels more comfortable, but we really do want to hear from you. So thank you again for coming on behalf of us all, and I hope you have a lovely evening. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Thank you.